Hi friends, my name is Jess and welcome back to my channel, Books Past Bedtime. Hopefully the lighting in this isn't too bad. We're only working with a limited amount of time here considering I work from like 8 to 6 pretty much. So sorry, we're just gonna have to deal with it. So today we're gonna be doing another installment in my little series that I do here on my channel where I read some of my friends' favorite books, and today we are going to be reading Annie's favorite books. Now, Annie is the sweetest sweetheart that has ever walked the earth. I absolutely love her and her content. She's very creative, very consistent, always has new videos out, unlike me. But I love Annie so much, and we honestly read some similar content. We definitely both love queer stories and feminist stories. Annie reads a lot more science fiction and even some more nonfiction than I do, whereas I tend to focus on like thrillers and contemporaries. But I think our like core themes that we're drawn to we enjoy, so I'm really hoping that even though I don't read a ton of sci-fi, I will really enjoy these books. And surprise surprise, we are doing a kind of like sci-fi fantasy theme for this video because that is the genre that most of Annie's favorites are in, so that is the plan. I'm going to be reading 3 books in this video and we're going to be seeing how my taste compares to Annie's taste. Also, Annie is doing a video reading my favorite books, so be sure to check that out. It will be linked down below. And also definitely subscribe to Annie if you're not already. I don't know why you wouldn't be, but she's great. I love her. Go subscribe. Alright, let's go ahead and get into my TBR. So the first book, The Ones We're Meant to Find by 𝗏𝗍, was already on my TBR, on my radar. This is like one of the most beautiful covers that has been released this year as well. This is a YA sci-fi book following these 2 sisters who live in this futuristic world where the society is very focused on conservation and being eco-friendly, so much so that the ranks in the society are determined by how eco-friendly you are, and your high rank can be taken away in an instant depending on the actions that you take. Honestly, a very cool concept. This is following 2 sisters, Casey and C, who live in this world. They are like the top high-ranked family in this world because their dad is some leader in like being eco-friendly. I don't know the vocabulary that I'm trying to get at, but you know what I mean. So very high-ranked, but then C actually goes missing and she winds up on this deserted island in the middle of nowhere. She has no idea where she is. She has no contact with the rest of the world, and a lot of her memories are gone. She starts to remember some things and really remembers her younger sister Casey and is determined to get back to her. And meanwhile, Casey back in the city is trying to figure out what happened to her sister, tracing her last movements, trying to figure out where she is. So I think this is going to be a story of sisterhood. It sounds like it almost has a kind of mystery element and also a very cool sci-fi-esque world. So I'm really interested to get into this one and cannot wait to see if I like it or not. I have a feeling that I will. I was already drawn to this one anyway, and it's not too far outside of my comfort zone, even though the description, I only could explain it to you because I've already started it. I literally had no idea what this was about prior to starting it because the description is very confusing, but very excited about this one. Probably most excited about this one if we're being honest, and I think I probably will like this one best if I'm making early predictions. Next, I'm going to be reading a memory called Empire by 𝗙𝗵𝗻 𝗏𝗏. I was kind of between reading this one and Ancillary Justice, but I asked Annie which one she thought I would like better, and she told me I would probably like this one better because I believe it's queer, so she knows me. Honestly, I don't know a lot about this one either. I know that this is more high sci-fi than The Ones We're Meant to Find, so I'm a little bit intimidated by this one, but I trust Annie and I'm willing to give it a shot. So I believe that this is a kind of space opera. It takes place like literally on a different planet, whereas The Ones We're Meant to Find is still on Earth. They just like live in the sky, I think. But this one is on another planet, and we're following our main character who is sent to be an ambassador of sorts, I believe, or maybe kind of like a spy to another planet. The previous spy slash ambassador is missing. They haven't had contact with him for a long time, so I think maybe she's trying to figure out what happened to him as well. I'm not totally sure what all this entails, but this one's definitely going to push me most outside of my comfort zone, so I really don't have any expectations or idea what I'm going to feel about this one, but I'm very excited to get into it and hopefully I love it. And then finally, I will be reading and discussing The Empress of Salt and Fortune by 𝗙𝗏𝗏. This is an Asian-inspired fantasy story, and it's really cool. It is a novella. It is a story within a story, and I've actually already read this one, so I'm going to go ahead and review it for you and tell you my thoughts as well as a description. So basically, we are in the very beginning following this cleric. Their job is to record history of this empire that has existed for many, many years. They're going around, I believe, and speaking with local people and recording their stories, and they come upon this old woman who was a handmaiden to the Empress. They are staying with them for a while, they're cataloging things in their home, and they're also listening to this handmaiden's story. So each night we get a little piece of her story, and her story is super interesting because she was actually exiled with the Empress and had a very close personal relationship with her, and this Empress is kind of like revered within the society, just a very like interesting figure to everyone who lives there. This is honestly a very rich, compelling story, and it's amazing that so many emotions and world building could get across in so few words in such a small number of pages. I really love novellas and short stories for this reason. I just am always in awe when an author can achieve something amazing in so few words. Like, I just think that that is pure talent, and I am so attracted to that kind of a book. So this was honestly perfect for me. I do feel like it went over my head a little bit, if I'm being completely honest. There were just some things that I was like, I didn't really understand, and I had trouble like following at times in this book. And I just think that maybe I don't read enough fantasy, or maybe I just wasn't in tune enough with what was going on or something. But I did really enjoy this a lot, and I really loved the feminist themes, and I loved the story within a story aspect and kind of learning along with the cleric of like what was going on. And honestly, I just loved the Empress as a character. She was very intriguing, and her story was honestly just wild. I really am interested in continuing the series because I know it's a series. I'm not really sure if it would continue the Empress's story or if it's like a companion novel sort of series, but either way, I did really enjoy this. I think I ended up giving it 4 stars. Honestly, it was excellent. I really don't have a ton to say about it because it was so short, but in conclusion, went over my head a little bit, but loved everything that I did understand. So 4 stars. I really loved this one. I'm hoping the other 2 will top this just because they have more material to them, but we will see. I will keep you updated. First up is going to be The Ones We're Meant to Find, and here's my 50% update. Hello my friends, so I'm bringing you my first official reading update for this vlog. I am 50% of the way through The Ones We're Meant to Find, and honestly I'm really loving this one. I was a bit intimidated because from the description, I really had no freaking idea what was going on. I just was not sure about this at all, but I was super interested in it. I've heard good things about Jdź Hay. Obviously, Annie loves it. I am very happy that I was pushed to pick it up because I'm absolutely loving it. It is beautifully written. I'm really enjoying the writing and the voices of our characters. So basically, if you are also confused by the description of this one, it is about 2 sisters, and these sisters live in a futuristic society that is very much focused on saving the planet, being eco-friendly, to the point where a lot of the people live in these cloud cities off the surface of the earth. They like stay in these little chambers, pretty much live through a virtual reality so that they're not polluting or affecting the earth in any way. And in the society, everyone is ranked in terms of how much they do for the earth in terms of conservation, being eco-friendly, etc. And our characters are from the #1 ranked family, and their ranking can go up or down depending on how eco-friendly they are and like the actions that they do and all kinds of stuff. It's like a virtual, constantly evolving ranking. We are following both younger sister, her name is Casey, and older sister, her name is C. C actually goes missing, and she's already missing prior to this story starting. We're also following C's perspective though, so we know that she's on this random island, isolated from the rest of the world, no communication. She lost a lot of her memories when she got there. She's like starting to gain them back. She does remember her younger sister Casey and is determined to get back to her. So she has been there her time, a couple of years, and has just been constantly trying to figure out ways to get back, and she's finally like built up a boat to try and sail back because she's on this island in the middle of nowhere in the ocean. She doesn't even know where she is, but she just knows next step to get off the island. So that's where C is, and then Casey knows C is missing. She wants to try and find her sister, so she is desperately trying to find like clues and where her last movements were, where her whereabouts are. Like, she's just trying to find her sister, but she also has to interact with the world that she currently lives in. So that's how we learn a lot about the current society that is happening is through Casey's point of view. Casey also has some kind of like mysterious past where she's been banned from using science, even though she's like a scientific genius. So I'm not quite sure about that, but right where I left off at the 50% mark, I think we're about to learn more about that. So I'm excited to see where that goes. But overall, I'm really loving this story. The characters are super interesting, and I'm just very, very engaged and very excited to see where it goes, because there's almost kind of like a mystery element as well, which I always like in a book. So good characters, good plot, interesting sci-fi elements that really aren't too complicated for me to understand. So I'm really enjoying this one and very excited to finish it up. I'll probably do like a little fun time lapse of me reading the rest of it, and then I will let you know my final thoughts. Alright, I just got to like the 60% mark of this, and holy shit, did it take a turn? I was not expecting that at all. The timelines are totally different than what I thought. There was just like a huge twist, and my mind is absolutely blown. I don't even have words, but that's my update. I am floored and don't know where this is gonna go from here. Hi, welcome to my commute home from work. Last night I did finish The Ones We're Meant to Find by 𝗏𝗍. I really enjoyed it. I'm kind of starting to think that Annie's purpose in picking these books for me is to prove that she's smarter than me, because I'm just kidding, obviously, but I feel like this one went like a tiny bit over my head as well. So I don't really want to tell you too much because I don't want to spoil anything, but the second half of the book definitely picked up the pace, ramped it up. There were lots of twists and turns that I was not expecting and honestly shocked me. It almost got like sci-fi thriller-y in the second half, just with all of the stuff that was happening and all of the twists and turns that were going on. All of the characters were pretty much like not what I expected them to be or who I expected them to be. There was lots of character development, and it wasn't necessarily, the character development in terms of writing was good, but it wasn't great in terms of my feelings. My feelings got hurt a little bit because I feel like a lot of the characters just didn't turn out how I wanted them to, and didn't like necessarily, let's just say the ending wasn't like happy-go-lucky, but there were some really good elements. I absolutely love the emphasis on sisterhood. I believe like at its core that's what this book is truly about, is sisterhood and the bond that you have with your sister, and just like how deeply that love for another person can go and what you will do for them. That definitely was a very touching, moving aspect of this book for me, and during like the big decision at the end, I definitely got a little bit emotional, but it was so complicated. 𝗏𝗍 developed a lot of like complicated emotions in this story, because on the one hand, you like completely understood why what happened because you had seen what shaped and molded the characters, how they acted, and why you like totally understood why they made the decisions that they made, even if like you wouldn't have made those decisions personally. So I think 𝗏𝗍 is just like an amazing writer in that way, to develop such a rich and immersive story and really like capture the reader and have them totally understand and appreciate the characters for who they are, even if they're not perfect people. So I thought it was beautifully and brilliantly done. It probably isn't a favorite for me, and I think with this book and with The Empress of Salt and Fortune, they are both, while they do have focus on characters, they're both kind of plot heavy and world building heavy, and that's not my typical what I look for in a book. So I think those elements for me kind of lower the rating a little bit, because I just am here for the characters. I'm here for the characters' relationships with their dialogue, their banter. Well, don't get me wrong, I really liked this book, and I think it would definitely be 5-star book. Like, it's objectively like a 5-star book for a lot of people. I can definitely see how this is one of Annie's favorites and why. For me personally, it just didn't have that spark that makes it a 5-star, so I think I'm going to end up giving this one a 4-star as well. Like I said, I really loved it. One thing that I did think was weird is I like listened to the audiobook and followed along with the text at the same time. I got a little discombobulated because for some reason, I don't know if there was like a second edit in the printing. The content was the same and the meaning was the same, but there were lots of sentences that were worded differently from the audio to the book, which was kind of strange, but it wasn't that big of a deal. It didn't like throw me out of the story or anything. I just like noticed it, and I would have to tell myself, okay, just skip over that, it's okay. It means the same thing, it's just in a different order. Like, you know, it just felt like it was like a second edit that the copy of the book that I had. I don't know what that was about, but other than that, this was a beautiful, immaculate, wonderful story. I really loved it, and I'm very glad that I was pushed to read it with this video, and I thought it was lovely. I thought it was lovely. It just probably isn't going to be one of my new favorites, but it's definitely up there as far as books that I've read this year go, so it was awesome. And like the world building, even though I say that that's not my favorite part in books generally, it was really cool in this story. I really loved the world that was created, and honestly I loved that the characters weren't perfect and were kind of like morally gray. Like if you like a morally gray character that's kind of like cold and shut off, Casey's your girl. I definitely liked this one, definitely would recommend to other people. Might not be for everyone, but it was a really cool, really well written story. I think probably everyone could get something out of it. I definitely did, so really enjoyed it. And now we are on to a memory called Empire. And I did start this last night and read a little bit this morning. I think I am about 60 pages into this one, maybe a little bit more. I definitely am going to be doing a lot of reading tonight, but that's okay. I'm excited. I'm ready for it. I'm liking this one okay so far. It's pretty much the same as what I thought it was when I talked about it in my intro. We're following our main character, who is an ambassador from, I think she lives on a spaceship. She doesn't inhabit a planet. This takes place in like deep space. In this world, there are civilizations on various planets, and there's also civilizations that are just like floating in space on spaceships, like detached cities, you know, kind of thing. So our main character is an ambassador from one of these non-planetary cities to a planetary city, and she's going there because this previous ambassador that they had is missing. No one knows what happened to him. No one knows where he is. She has this like chip implanted in her head, and it's kind of like his memories up to a point of when the civilization still had contact with him, so she can kind of navigate her way better in this new community, and so she doesn't seem like such of an outsider. She kind of has some insider knowledge already. This is like technology that's often used in this civilization. It's like a way of preserving memories and knowledge and wisdom, which is really cool concept. I really enjoy that aspect of it. But basically she's going to this planet to be this ambassador, to kind of like be a liaison, a communicator between the two, and also to figure out what happened to the previous ambassador. And quickly after she gets there, she finds out that he has died. They tell her it's an accident, that he ate something that he was allergic to, but I believe they probably killed him, poisoned him. Something shady is going on, so I think she's going to try and figure out what's going on with that as well. So that's pretty much where I am right now. I've just barely started it. I do really like the writing. I think it's going to be a really cool read. It is a little bit confusing, and I think it's just because I'm not used to reading high sci-fi and high fantasy, so whenever there's like different world building terms and different names, I'm like, what is going on? But I'm also listening to the audiobook and following along physically, so I think that's going to help me like retain and absorb all the information. So that's the plan. I'm pretty much going to read the whole book tonight. So I know I promised a time lapse yesterday, but I'm definitely going to do one today. I just need to like log into my iPad so I can listen to the audiobook on my iPad and film on my phone. You don't care about that, but that's what's happening tonight. So I will be back with you once I am back home. I'm almost there. My drive's really short. It's only like 15 minutes, but yeah, I will update you when I have something to update you on. Alright, I just hit the halfway point of a memory called Empire. I'm really liking it so far. It's a little bit slow and it's a little bit heavy on the world building, which it's a space opera sci-fi, so it's supposed to be heavy on the world building, but that's just like not quite my thing, you know? So having a good time though. Like it's really setting the scene and establishing the environment and what's going on. It's very politically heavy. There are a lot of political figures that are being introduced that I'm having to keep straight, and there's also like a lot of political like maneuvering that I'm trying to track. But I really like our main character 𝗙𝗵. She's very smart, and I think her motivations are interesting. The whole like mystery behind what happened to the previous ambassador and what his relationship was with all of the political figures in this land, and that whole mystery is very interesting to me. I'm really interested in like where that's going to go and how it's all going to come together in the end, because he was definitely up to something, and we've learned a little bit about it, but I don't know that we know the full extent yet, and I just think that is super interesting so far. I also really like 𝗏𝗏, who is kind of like the liaison to 𝗦𝘂𝗃, who is the ambassador. They have like a fun friendship because 𝗦𝘃 kind of like instantly likes her and instantly trusts her, but I mean, obviously they're politically separated. 𝗏𝗏 is from planet side, and 𝗦𝘃's obviously just an ambassador, just a visitor, just kind of like not a citizen, you know? The smart thing to do would just to be aware and be cautious and not necessarily trust her right away, but 𝗦𝘃 does, and just really has a connection with the 𝗏𝗏, and I like their banter and the way that they just kind of like innately know what the other person needs. I think maybe this is going to turn into a little bit of a romance, and I'm here for that, so I'm excited to see if I'm right there or like what's going on. I'm also kind of surprised. I really thought that Iskander, who is the previous ambassador, she has his like memories and stuff implanted in her brain stem, and I really thought he was gonna like come back too, because she kind of lost him. He went quiet, and she has like his endocrine responses to things, so she kind of feels his emotions, but she doesn't have access to anything that's like useful, because in the very beginning, like in the first couple chapters, they were kind of like talking amongst themselves, and I'm just like, I don't know what happened to him. That's another weird thing that I think hopefully will come together in the end. But yeah, this is definitely kind of a little bit difficult for me to get into a process, just because I'm not used to reading high sci-fi. Is that what it's called? I don't know. I do think it has elements that I like. I'm liking the characters, I'm liking the mystery element, and even though some of the like world building and political posturing is going over my head a little bit, really liking the story at its core. I also think it's interesting because this book definitely focuses quite a bit on language. I know that Annie has some linguistic background. She hosted the Linguathon with our other friend Noelle, so seeing that in here too, I'm like, oh, that's such an Annie thing to like in a book, so I thought that was cool. So I am excited to keep reading this and see how it all comes together and see where it goes in the end, and I will keep you updated. And sorry I cut the time lapse off short. I've been coloring and listening to audiobook, which is honestly probably what I'm going to continue to do because I'm kind of tired, but I need to finish it. So that's the plan. Should only have a couple more hours left of the audiobook, so I'll update you once I'm finished. All right, so last night I did finish a memory called 𝗙𝗵𝗴. I'm kind of like in the middle on this one. Hear me out a little bit. Political intrigue in books, not my thing. High sci-fi, high fantasy, not my thing. Keeping in mind that that's basically what this book is, I liked it pretty well. You know, those things considered, I liked it pretty well. It definitely picked up a bit towards the end. Overall, this book was a little bit slow, and I think I felt that way because I don't really care for politics, because I don't really care for high fantasy, high sci-fi. So, like, the world building and this talking of politics and revolutions and unrest and I don't know, it just, I just don't like it. I just don't like reading about that very much. I think it's kind of boring and it's hard for me to like understand, and when I read, I don't really read for those kinds of things. I read for characters, I read for people, I read for connection, and those things don't do that for me, you know. So, but I think this book is also a little bit slow because it is the first in a series, and I struggle a lot with series anymore. Honestly, I prefer a standalone book just because I like the story to like get in and get done with, straight to the point. I don't like having, because I feel like this is all exposition, you know, like there is a climax and falling action, but there is the idea that the story will continue and that it's part of a like broader arc that hasn't crested yet. So I feel like that's why I find first books in series kind of slow for that reason, and this one was no different. This entire fat book took place over like just a week. I just wanted a little bit more from it, you know. Granted, nobody slept in this book ever, so I guess that's why they could get so much done in so little time. Yeah, I just found some parts of it going over my head, but those are like the negatives. I don't know why I started with the negatives. But on the positives, I did enjoy this a lot because there are some really good characters in this book and character development, character relationships. I did want a little bit more from them, and there were some characters that I thought were super interesting that weren't explored as deeply as I would like to, but they might be explored deeper in other books. So basically, the reason Annie told me to read this one over some of her other ones was because there is a sapphic relationship in this one, and I definitely enjoyed that, not gonna lie. 𝗏 and her advisor, 𝗏 Seagrass, definitely have a very interesting bond. It's kind of almost like, it's cliche to say it's a Romeo and Juliet situation, but it kind of is, because they are from different empires, different cultures. They're not really supposed to be together, but they are just drawn to each other and have this connection. And I really liked how they had this form of kind of like nonverbal communication. They both knew exactly what the other person needed, and they'd only known each other for like a week, so pretty impressive stuff. I really enjoyed their relationship and how it developed. The end was a little sad, but I think that my coworker is coming out. I'm doing this on my lunch break, so I felt awkward. Anyway, so the ending was a little sad for them, but I think in future books that will be rectified, you know. So also, my favorite freaking character died in this book. What the heck's that about? I don't like that. That doesn't happen in contemporary books. Excuse me. That aside. And who knows, in sci-fi fantasy books, sometimes people come back to life. So granted, I probably won't continue with this series, just mostly because I don't like series very much, but also because it was kind of long and it was a little bit boring for me. I'm sorry, Annie, don't hate me. I'm not on the enlightened level that Annie is. We just like different things in our books, which is fine, totally fine. But honestly, like, I think I would give this a 3.5 star, which is a decent rating for me. I didn't hate it by any means. Like, I thought it was good. There are elements that I liked, things that I enjoyed. I wish it was more character driven, because there were definitely some interesting characters, interesting relationships. I didn't like the other stuff that much. So 3.5. This is an objectively excellent book. I mean, it was I believe it won the Hugo Award. If it didn't win, it was definitely nominated for the Hugo Award. I'm pretty sure it won. Objectively, very good book. And if you like political intrigue and space operas, I don't know why you wouldn't love this. I definitely love too that it was a high sci-fi, it was a female driven high sci-fi, and I believe that is probably a big reason that Annie likes this book so much. I've been talking for too long about this. You get the deal. You get the gist, okay? So let's kind of just like recap everything that happened in this vlog. So the first book I read was The Empress of Salt and Fortune by 𝗏𝗏. I really loved this book. I gave it 4 stars. I just wish it had been a little bit longer almost, or like, I don't know, my only real complaint is that some things were a little bit confusing, but also I just wish I had been able to spend more time with these characters. Don't get me wrong, I love a short book and I think it's really cool what was done in this book, but I just like wanted a little bit more, you know? And then I read The Ones We're Meant to Find by Joan Hay. I really enjoyed this one. I gave this one 4 stars as well. It might be more like a 4.5. I think I was just like letting my emotions regarding the characters cloud my view a little bit, but looking back, this was a really, really good book. I really enjoyed reading it. I loved the characters. I loved the story. This one's definitely probably my favorite that I read in this vlog. Also, it's so beautiful. Look at the freaking end papers. Like, get real. I love this book. It's so pretty. My heart wanted more and better for some of the characters in this book, but overall, really great. I loved it a lot. And we just talked about A Memory Called Empire, 3.5 stars. Probably my least favorite that I read in this vlog, just because I don't tend to gravitate towards some of the elements in my own personal reading. Just a taste thing, not a bad book. Still really great characters. Still enjoyed reading it and stepping out of my comfort zone a little bit. So that's how it is. Probably, if we're ranking these, this one is my least favorite. This one is next, and this one is my most favorite. So whenever I do these videos, I like to kind of talk about themes and what I think are similar in all of these books and maybe get a better idea of what Annie's taste is in general. So the main thing that I want to point out is all 3 of these books are female-centric fantasy and sci-fi. I think that is definitely something that Annie must gravitate towards, and I think historically sci-fi is a very like male-dominated, male-driven genre. So I think this like genre-bending focus on female main characters in science fiction books is definitely something that I see Annie being very drawn to. It's the same in all 3 of these books, and I definitely very much appreciate that she didn't make me read any books written by cis men or with cis male main characters. I think that's definitely something Annie and I have in common, is a focus on female-centric literature and queer-centric literature, which I love for us.
I think another theme, not only are these female-centric, they are female relationship-centric and all focus on female characters' relationships with one another. This one involves sisters. This one involves female friendship, female relationships. Same with A Memory Called Empire, which I think is really cool. None of these involve like female competition or anything. It's all about like friendship, supporting one another, lifting each other up, lifting up other women, which I love. Those are the main themes that I see in these books, along with just being like science fiction fantasy in general. I feel like Annie has very clear, strong themes and things she likes in books, at least in books that end up being her favorites. So I think that's really cool, and I definitely see where she's coming from. I loved this little experiment. Honestly, this was so much fun, and it definitely pushed me outside of my comfort zone a little more than other videos like this that I've done, which I love for me. I need that sometimes. And also I have been a little bit of a reading slump, so I'm glad that this video pushed me to read some more books this month because I was sorely lacking in, not that numbers matter that much, but I only read one other book in September. So I really enjoyed this experiment. I liked every book that I read, and I'm very excited to see what Annie thinks of my favorites. So on that note, make sure you go watch Annie's video and subscribe to Annie's channel. She's incredible, has great recommendations, especially if you love science fiction and fantasy. She is your girl. I had so much fun filming this video. Definitely like and subscribe if you feel so inclined. Fingers crossed there are consistent uploads for the rest of the year. I know I've been kind of slacking and in a slump a little bit, not gonna lie, but we're back and better than ever, baby. So subscribe to this channel. Hopefully I won't abandon you guys again. I think that's pretty much it. You can follow me on social media if you want to, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.